Hello, I'm Roberto, and we are learning Rust. We also have here today with us
Luciano. Hello,
which
everyone.
side? This way?
Somewhere, yeah.
Somewhere. Yeah, on the screen, I hope. We have Luciano here. If you don't know this channel, in this channel we talk about Rust and technologies. And today also Node. You can find a recording on the previous stream on YouTube. And if you're watching us on YouTube, we stream every Monday, 6 p.m. Dublin time on Twitch. Last time we created a step function with only one function in it, only one lambda. And it is a monolithic lambda that is used for the full stack bulletin. We moved it. Luciano made changes, putting the secrets in SSM, because the last time we tried to put them in the environment variables, but obviously it was not populating them. And this time we will try to extract one functionality from this monolithic lambda, creating a second lambda for our step function flow machine state machine, sorry. And again, still in Node, because our final aim is to rewrite that in Rust. But first of all, we have to keep the core working. And Luciano tested it this weekend. The core itself that we lift and shifted is working. Now we have to decompose stuff and keep it working. After that, we can start refactoring the code. So, what we show now?
Yes, so what I want to show first is a few things. So first of all, proof that this is working. This is the last newsletter that was generated this weekend. I'm just going to post it here in the chat. And basically, this is what I received last Friday. And then, of course, it was a draft. And then I kind of improved a few things, and it was ready to go. And it was sent today, a couple of hours ago, I think. So you can check it out if you're curious. Then the other thing I want to show you is the step function execution. So the cool thing about step functions is that every time you execute a step function, that execution is recorded. And now it is very simple because it's just one state. So there isn't really a lot of value. But imagine this will grow up with lots more states. You can actually see the entire flow for that particular execution. You can see all the nodes that were visited, how long every node did take, what was the input and the output of every single node. So assuming that there is at some point a bug, this gives you a very nice experience to try to figure out exactly where is the problem, what is the problem, and understand how you can fix it. And if we go back here, you can see all the different execution that we did so far for this Lambda. So basically, you can see how you can keep track of all the history, basically. And the other thing is that I have a PR here with all the changes. So I'm going to actually post this one in the chat as well, if you're curious. See, so these are all the things we did last time with some small improvement. And it's mostly moving files around and then creating the step function definition, which is somewhere. So this is the template YAML, because we also switched from serverless framework to SAM. And one thing that we were doing is using we were trying to think how can we forward secrets to this Lambda or all the different Lambdas that will become part of the step function. And we decided to use SSM. So this is something that we didn't really show on stream, just because it was literally going to SSM, copy pasting values there, and then you need to reference them this way with this particular syntax.
Copy and pasting your secrets, so it's better that you don't show them live on Twitch.
And by the way, we might also talk a bit more about this. This is not necessarily the most robust approach, because the secrets here are interpolated at deployment time. So what you get in the Lambda configuration or in your template, it's effectively clear text secrets. So for this particular use case, it's good enough. But if you are building more security sensitive applications, you might want to consider other approaches.
a better approach would be keeping the reference to the SSM key and having an SSM client in the Lambda that is retrieving at runtime the secrets.
Exactly, yeah. And if you use something, well, two things. You can also add KMS into the game, so the secrets are also encrypted, and you also need to have a privilege for a specific KMS key to be able to read them. Sorry, to be able to decrypt them. So you need two permissions, one to read them and one to decrypt them. So you can also control more specifically who can actually decrypt the secrets. And the other thing is that there are tools, for instance, there is a framework called MIDI that has kind of middlewares that you can install and configure, and they will do all this prefetching for you behind the scenes. So you don't really have to do a lot of extra work initializing the client, keeping things in the cache, and all that kind of stuff, because the middleware, it's already pre-configured with some best practices. Here we just wanted to keep things simple, make sure we could deploy. It's not really a super secure use case. It's not like a share account with multiple people logging in. So this is probably fine, but just be aware that it's not the most robust or the most secure approach. And then what else? I think we had the step function is here. So a step function uses this language called ASL, which is effectively either a JSON or a YAML. Oh, we have Budin LBN. Thank you for the follow. And also Jocelyn in the chat. Hello, Jocelyn. How are you? Okay, so ASL is basically a meta language, a declarative syntax to define how the states, which states do you have and how they are related to each other. If you have logical states, for instance, if statements, parallel execution, map, or things like that, or if you have blocks like a Lambda with your own custom code. So here we are defining only one state. So we're basically saying it starts from this state and it finishes, basically. So we will need to touch this file and add more states and then associate a Lambda to that. Now what I want to do is just merge this one. And at that point, everything should be in main. And we can continue from there. And another thing that I want to do is, because last Friday, I received 2 emails. So I received 2 draft campaigns for the newsletter. And the reason is because we never disabled the old implementation, the old Lambda. And the cool thing is that because that old Lambda was created with CloudFormation using a serverless framework, there is a stack here with all the resources that were part of that Lambda. So the Lambda itself, different policies, the S3 bucket that contains all the Lambda code, the log streams, and so on. What I can do is just go to this stack and just say, here, delete. And this is going to free all the resources. So next time I'm not going to receive 2 emails, but I'm just going to receive 1. We proved that the new version works exactly as the previous one. So we can keep improving that one. And our goal is going to be that every time we do changes, we don't want to break the current implementation. So we are going to try to do as much incremental changes as possible so that we keep the thing working. And this is why we are extrapolating functionalities bit by bit. We are kind of deconstructing the monolith, so to speak.
So AWS is smart enough to delete everything in the right order.
Generally, yes. So CloudFormation is interesting.
Generally.
Sometimes there are weird things that you bump into. Like last day, I had an interesting one. I think it was a load balancer target. And because we were hard coding the name of that load balancer target, if you do a change, they are going to recreate a new target and try to swap over. Because, of course, they are not going to try to create disruption of service. They're going to try to create something new in the background, make sure that something new works, and then swap it over and then delete the previous one. But because the new one that was being created had the same name, everything was running and then at some point failing, saying, sorry, I cannot create this resource. And that was a bit annoying because we needed to basically just to do a change on that target group. So the problem is that changing some property in the target group forces it to create a new one. So every time we were doing a change, we also needed to change the name
of the current one to be able to create the new one.
Basically, when you change the name in the stack and you deploy, it's going to figure out, oh, you will also want to create a new one with a new name. So you are also renaming it as a side effect, which is a little bit annoying. Okay. So there are some cases where it's not like there are some weird edge cases, basically, is that eventually you learn and you know how to manage. But in theory, the way that CloudFormation works is very cool because it keeps track of all the dependencies between your resources. For instance, if you have a Lambda that uses an S3 bucket to get the code, it's going to delete the Lambda first and then the S3 bucket, for instance. So if meanwhile the Lambda is still running, it's going to keep running and it's going to be able to spin up new instances until like everything is properly deleted in order. So it is pretty cool as a system, and I would encourage people to use this or Terraform or any other infrastructure as code tool because it does handle dependencies and releases and changes in a much better way. Like you cannot do the same level of finesse if you do things manually.
Cool. Now what we do, we create a new empty Lambda and we extract a functionality.
Yes. So once this is done, actually, this is going to be running in the background, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, like it will probably take a while.
Oh, it did even fail. Yeah, because I think I need to empty this bucket manually. So let's quickly do that.
You are not using the same bucket with the new stack. Okay. Just to be sure before you delete something that is needed.
I'm quite sure about that. I'm going to take this risk. And we'll figure it out if it explodes.
Worst case scenario, you have to recreate the data.
Okay, let's try to delete again. Because generally should be quite fast. So this is also another cool thing, which could be a bit unexpected and sometimes could be a bit annoying, that if in your stack you have an S3 bucket that contains data, at some point the deletion is going to fail because it's not going to delete files without you being aware that you are deleting files. So it kind of tells you, if you really want to delete this bucket, go inside, clean up everything on your own, and then come back here and trigger the deletion, which is, I guess, a lifesaver thing when you don't realize you are deleting files and maybe they are important for you.
Like I asked you, do you need the file in the bucket? You were, no, fine. I know.
Yes,
I'm not
exactly.
needing them. Let's hope you were
I
right.
might still regret that, but at least CloudFormation is trying to protect us.
Okay, so now if we want to create a Lambda that does nothing, an empty node Lambda, but we want to add it to the state machine, and basically the event start, this Lambda is triggered, it does nothing, it passes to the current monolithic Lambda nothing, or an empty object. That should be doable, and everything should work like now.
Yes, so that's the idea. So let's try to look. I did merge and I created a new branch. So
okay, you pulled, yes, okay. Sorry,
so here we have only one function, right? So we want to create a new function, but also we want to create a new state. So let's try to figure that part out first. So we have the state create issue, which is the only one that runs now. Now we want to separate.
Is a new state or is a function inside this state?
So it's it's a state that is running a Lambda function. Let's put it this way. It's a block in our state machine, and that block is associated to a Lambda function.
Okay. And we need those references to the function ARN, but we don't need it. So, okay.
So just as a recap, let's mention very quickly what the step function does. So what Right now the Lambda does, because the Lambda is doing everything. We are only wrapping in like one step function. And this Lambda, what it does is it fetches a quote, it fetches a book, it fetches 7 articles, then takes all this information, calls MailChimp, referencing a specific template, campaign, and so on, creates a new draft issue, and sends it to me for review and for manual touches. So we want to start to extrapolate all these different operations, and each and every one of them will become at least one step in the step function. So probably the easiest ones to start with are either fetching the book or fetching the quote, and the code for the two is very, very similar.
Okay, let's try with get book, with get quote then.
Okay, so let's call it fetch weekly quote, or actually just quote, because
yeah, quote. Weekly depends on the frequency you call it.
Exactly.
Okay,
Let's
what is
see what Copilot is saying. I don't think it's getting it right.
I don't think too.
Okay, let's go with it anyway. So, and let's change what we think is wrong. So this one is going to be fetch quote function ARN.
Yeah.
Then
parameters are just the payload.
Parameters. Okay. So output path. I think what we want to use is quote, which basically means that whatever this Lambda is going to output, so whatever is going to return as an object, is going to be taken by the step function, which is the orchestrator, and injected into the state in this particular field. So the next steps will be able to access the values produced by this Lambda by reading event.quote, basically. Does that make sense?
Okay, we need to add something in line 19 to do that, or is not needed?
In line 19, we can choose. We can either change the input,
or we can keep importing everything,
or we can keep importing everything, which is probably the easier thing to do for now in the short term.
Okay. We need all the retry logic that is missing there.
Let's see.
And the function name, I don't think we need the function name.
Yeah, I don't think we need it either. Also, this payload.
That payload is strange. Task
Yeah,
token.
let's review what payload means, because I'm not too sure I remember. I think it's the input, but let's double check why we have that particular syntax. AWS step functions payload. Let's see if we can find a good example. Payload. Instead of hard coding the event payload in the state machine definition, you can use the input from the state machine execution. The following example uses the input specify when you run the state machine as the event payload.
Now the event should not go to the main Lambda, should go to the quote, or should funnel to multiple ones. So what is the entry point? Is a CloudWatch event, right?
The entry point is always an event. So this is, or we run it manually, one of the two.
Okay, it's still an event. You that click on a button.
Yes.
That should trigger free lambdas. In the end, will be free. Now we are writing the first one of those free, and the output should go to the current monolithic one that will have less code because we are extracting it.
Exactly.
Now your event goes directly to this monolithic Lambda.
Right now, yes, but what we want to do is
to wire it to the fetch quote. Then fetch quote, when it's done, is calling create issue.
Exactly.
Okay. So that parameter payload.
So I think we need to do this to just say take everything.
Yes. I don't know what we have to put now in line 17 to get the quote from the previous step.
Nothing. We will
Nothing?
need to. So this is basically still saying get the entire state,
Okay.
and the entire state will contain dot quote.
Perfect.
So in the code, then we will need to take event dot payload dot quote, I think.
And with this definition, how does the step function know what is the entry point of your state machine?
Good question. My understanding is that it takes everything without a dependency and just run it, because you might have multiple things in parallel as a entry point.
So is creating the graph, and then it say, okay, this one is without a father, so it's the first
exactly,
node.
Yeah. Let's see if it complains, I guess.
Yeah, well, now
actually, no, there is here, start at, so we need to change that.
Okay,
so
no.
Scrap everything I said.
Perfect. We need to specify where to start. But it makes sense. I mean, I want to start where? Here. Cool. Do we have to create a quote function ARN? And if I remember that one, oh yeah, we need also the retry block.
It's not needed, but let's use it. I guess it's good practice to retry a few times. Now, actually, in this particular one, there is no. So the way that this particular piece of code is written is that there is an hard-coded list of quotes, and it's just going to pick one from, imagine, like an array.
Yeah.
So it's not really something that can fail because of.
But well, the Lambda can
issues.
always but can always fail because I don't know, the machine crash in the middle of it. The machine Lambda function are serverless, but there is somebody running it. There is some hardware running it. It can crash in the middle of it.
Yeah, I guess we could become more specific here and remove certain errors. So for now, let's just copy paste, but we might want to revisit this kind of errors later.
Okay. Now that fetch quote function ARN, where is coming from?
So this is coming from the template,
should come from,
which is function. No, sorry, it's
not in the root.
Template YAML. Template YAML. We have this guy. Create issue state machine. This is the one. So we'll need to create.
Oh, there is a line 66. There is create issue function.
So this creates the state machine using that file we were editing before. This creates the Lambda function. So we'll need to do something like this.
Yes,
I guess.
Very similar to that one. I think you can take.
Let's just copy this for now.
If he's an hard-coded list, you don't need anything else. So
I don't think so. So this is called, what did we call it? Fetch
quote. Yeah.
And
then you have to change
let's
the folder.
Call it fetch quote, which we'll need to create.
There is an ad on Twitch. Do you have it?
Yes, should be almost over. Okay. Sorry, if you saw the ad, let us know if you have any questions. Meanwhile, what we're doing is creating the function definition. So we just updated the step function definition, so the structure of the graph. Now we are actually creating a Lambda function that can be used as the new node that we create. Now here the timeout, I'm just going to put 15 seconds because it doesn't need to do anything special. So if it takes more than 15 seconds, I would be worried. Okay, so now we can create a new folder, calling it.
Oh, you create a file.
Sorry, I created a file, calling it fetch quote, right?
Yeah, we need an handler.js in it.
We need an handler.js, and we will need a package.json as well. So let's do that.
Yeah, we need it.
We need it just because I'll show you in a second. Okay. So let's go functions fetch quote npm init y. And that's fine. Doesn't need to do anything special for now. But the one thing that we need to do is, unfortunately, who does JavaScript probably knows this pain. type module, which allows us to use ESM. So we can use import and exports, which is the syntax we are using everywhere else. Okay, so now here what we need to do, export function fetch quote, and this can be an async function. And this will receive the event. And that's it. Now, for now, if we just want to test, what we can do just to make sure everything works is return something like, I don't know. What is the shape of a quote? Let me see here in the handler. Let's see, where is get quote? Tech quote of the week is the library that we need to use. What it does, it returns from this data.quotes JSON, which can we read it from here? Okay, so I'm just gonna copy this one for now, literally hard coded and return.
So we have to include this JSON in the Lambda.
So there is a mini library that I created and I already published on NPM, so we can just use the library. When we'll rewrite this in Rust, we'll figure it out. What's the best way
include,
to do this?
Probably with a static inclusion of the text in the executable.
I was also thinking that this could easily become an API hosted in GitHub Pages. So that could be another option as well. So at that point from Rust, we'll only do an HTTP request.
At that point, you need a retries because then you are using the network.
But the advantage of that is that people can start to submit quotes to us.
Yeah.
Because at that point, we don't need a complex process to publish
No, we just need a pull request, approve it, done.
Exactly. And other people can use the same API very easily. Okay, so this is very dummy for now. What we want to return is literally this.
A status code. No, we don't have to return also status code.
No, because this is not an HTTP Lambda. This is just a step function. So whatever we return here is going to be injected into that particular key.
Calling it quote because it's the name that we gave to it in the definition in the ESL.
Exactly. So for now, what I want to do...
This should be enough. Or is everything wired up then now?
Yes, what I want to do is this. Something like this, right? I just want the console.log event. So we see what do we receive here, and then return whatever.
You don't want to really execute.
Exactly. I don't want to create a newsletter for nothing, basically.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna comment all of this. It's gonna complain in many different ways.
There is a return. Was not going to execute that or not.
Okay, so now we can
compile.
Also, we don't need this callback anymore because this is all the syntax that we don't need, so we can just return this. Also here, we don't need status code, right? We could return just, okay. For the same reason that this is a step function, so we don't need to follow any HTTP protocol or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do we deploy this? We can just do some deploy.
From this folder or from the root?
From the root. Good catch.
We are not in the root.
I'm not in the root. Good catch. The joys of the live streams.
Okay. So it's creating a new lambdas, uploading the zip somewhere, probably in the lambda itself, or it keeps the zips also in some S3 bucket. How it's working is uploading directly to the lambda, probably.
It did upload only one lambda, or both?
We forgot to wire something.
Okay, no, this is the preview. So it's not doing anything. It only uploaded the code, but now it's giving us the preview for what to do. So it's creating
fetch quote, and modifying a create issue.
and then modifying the step function as well. So this replacement basically means, am I creating something new? Am I replacing an existing resource, or am I modifying an existing resource? So it's just modifying these two, because this one we change the code, this one we change the step function definition, and these ones are new. So the Lambda function itself and the role needed for
is a little bit easier than using Terraform.
I don't know, Terraform also has something like this.
Yeah, but to create a new Lambda is not just create Lambda. It is a lot of you have to do all the policy by hand. Is a little bit more. I mean, if you have a module, you just have a module and you create all the Lambda that you want. But let's say that is a little bit more.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead, and meanwhile, actually, I'm gonna show something that some people might like it, some people not. That if we look at this template YAML, one of the things that you can do with SAM is basically this policies thing, which is not CloudFormation. This is kind of a shortcut.
Oh, we forgot to add fetch quote there.
Where?
Line 64. We say that this can run create issue
function.
So
this is gonna fail.
But this should also be able to run fetch quote function, not just
so this is gonna fail. We will see that.
But well, the deploy is going to succeed, but the run is
execution of the Lambda function is gonna fail to execute the first Lambda. Good point.
Okay, let's try. Let's look at the failure, our failures.
But the cool thing here is that if you ever written IAM policies, you know there's like a big blob of JSON and you need to follow a certain syntax. And it could be a bit verbose and it's easy to do mistakes. With SAM, what you can do is that for the common things, like, I don't know, reading files from S3 or executing Lambda functions, they have pre-baked templates. So you can just reference them with the actual name of that template. And then you only pass the values that are generally the values that you want to fill.
No, the deploy will fail because of line 54.
Line 54.
We forgot to tell what the variable must be changed with. You know,
right,
in
okay.
our ASL we have the variable.
It did fail.
Yeah.
So let's fix these issues.
Yeah.
So
the
this
issue
one
is that in the ASL we are using a pointer, but here we are not pointing the pointers.
So let's do it correctly. Fetch quote function.
Yeah.
And then fetch quote function ARN.
Yeah.
Now that's happy. Should we also fix this, or do we want to see it failing?
Oh no, we can fix it now that we explained why. Is enough. No, okay. We have to add all of it.
Yeah, because this is like the template, and this is properties that you want
the property that you change in the template. Exactly. Okay, cool.
But the real policy will be much bigger. So this is a nice shortcut that you get with SAM.
Okay, let's try to do that again.
And similarly here, for instance, I have an S3 CRUD policy, which basically is giving this Lambda ability to read and write in this bucket, and SSM parameter, which is basically telling you can read all the parameters with this prefix. And if you need to write these policies, they are much bigger. Okay, so let's retry. Deploy. Come on. This is the moment to ask questions, by the way.
Nobody's asking questions. We are looking at the console. Come on, AWS. Faster, faster.
Okay, so far so good.
Okay, he's updating create issue function. He's creating the role. He's creating the Lambda. It created the Lambda also because there is nothing basically in the Lambda. and is updating the state machine. We can see that on the AWS console, right?
That there is a new state machine. I hope so. Yeah, let's go there. So if we go here and we go to state machines, there is still only one. And if we go at, I guess, edit. Yeah, there we go. Now we see start, fetch quote, create issue.
Okay, so let's see if the console is done.
Is done, everything is green. So what we can do is trigger an execution and see what happens. And when we trigger manual, you can pass whatever event you want. When it's triggered by a schedule, there is something like date with the current timestamp, something like that. So there isn't really a lot of input, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's funny that you can see in real time executing different blocks, and it did fail straight away.
Perfect.
Let's try to figure out why. So enter the event ID, invalid path $quote, no results for path $quote. Okay, so
you returned a JSON. It should have a quote key, the JSON that you are returning from the Lambda.
Ooh, that's a good question. Or is it failing even before?
Try to add a quote key to the object you're returning from the handler.
Yeah, that's the thing that is always a bit tricky with step function to have confidence with this syntax. I remember exactly what it means. So here you are assuming that we expect to find a quote
in the object in the handler JS for fetch quote. Try to open the JS.
Okay, my understanding was something else, but let's try.
Perfect.
Let's try.
You see, here we return an object, a first level object. Try to wrap it around a quote colon. Yeah.
Basically, this is what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm saying this. I can be completely wrong.
Let's try. And if it doesn't work, we'll try to research a little bit more about the syntax.
Yeah, exactly. You wanted a fail, we got a fail straight away.
We can get as many failures as we want.
Failure-driven development. So it's modifying the function and the state machine. Why the state machine?
Because I think it needs to change the reference to the last version of the Lambda, something like that.
Ah, okay. Okay, can be that.
Okay, this was fast. Let's execute it again.
And then let's read the documentation.
You were right. Good job.
But
I'm curious to see
what is passed to create issue.
So payload is always payload. So whatever we pass goes inside the payload, which is interesting, not necessarily obvious at all. Now I wonder, is that the case because we are defining it this way? We are just saying payload.$, put everything.
Yeah, probably it is. It is because of that. Pass me whatever it comes from the state inside the payload key.
So if we were doing this, probably was like
I don't know if it's a valid. Yeah, but I don't know if it's a valid syntax.
Let's leave it like this because this is probably more common.
And also we will find in create issue payload.quote.whatever.
That's the next thing we need to check. So here, what was the input was payload, what was the but everything went into the payload.
What is in the output of fetch quote?
What is in the output of fetch quote? Okay, so it's only taking that part of the output and injecting it.
Okay, so probably I know what we have to do.
So yeah, I have a guess as well, but go for it.
So probably we have to take we can put the code to what it was. So we can make the code what it was before without the wrapping quote key.
Okay.
Our output path can become just dollar and not dollar.quote, so it's not looking for quote. And how do we know?
Yeah, one option is to leave here this wrapping. And at that point, I think it will create .payload.quote. But I think there might be another configuration parameter here that tells you where to inject the state. So where to inject the output into the state.
Yeah,
I don't remember exactly what it is, but we can search for it.
Well, let's remove that .quote from line 7 for now and try again.
Let's remove the wrapping.
Yeah, what you did is fine. Keep the wrapping. We just removed the dot quote there, okay?
Yep.
It's the only change we did. Let's try to save
and deploy again.
deploy.
Okay. Meanwhile,
run.
Let's do this, and meanwhile we can search for documentation.
I think we need a step to mix outputs together. So if you want, we can create also the book Lambda that is returning an hard-coded book, and then we can funnel them together, because I think the trick is in the funnel together of the data.
Okay, I have found an interesting page. I'm just gonna open it here in another tab. Come on. So there are a bunch of parameters we can use: input parameter, output path, result path, parameters, result selector. So I think by properly understanding and combining all of them, we can probably do all the manipulation we want. So we can come back here. Now this is deployed. Let's try another execution. And this time we expect that in the input, we have quote as it is.
In the output of fetch one.
Sorry, in the input, we still have payload and comment because we're still using that payload.
Yeah.
In the output, we only have quote. Here, what do we have in the input? Payload, quote, which is what we want.
Yeah.
And the output is just okay, true, because this is what we're returning at the end.
What we want in the input, if we add a second lambda, that is the fetch book, we want one key with quote and one key with book.
Exactly. But I think we can achieve the same thing by using one of these. The result path probably is the one we want to use. Is there an example? So state input path parameters, AWS service, so for instance, a Lambda function, result selector, which is the one we used before, right? Did we use result selector? No, we use output path. Okay. Result path and then output path. What did we use?
When you have two lambdas and you have to put the data together in the visual editor, what is the visual editor giving you?
Let's see.
It's the usual AWS documentation.
Here there are some examples, so maybe we are luckier, but let's see that. If we do edit state machine and we do workflow studio, what we can do here is input and output. Okay, add original input to output using result path. So if we do add original input, okay, so adding original input means the initial input that got here, we also want to add it to the output.
So is adding, is not changing.
So combine original input with the result, discard result and keep original input.
Yeah, but we want to use the Lambda in parallel, get fetch quote and fetch book, and then put the data together. So how do we do that?
So this is not really helpful. And then there is transform result with result selector.
Oh God. Okay. This is to shuffle the data around.
Okay, so this is probably what we could do, where we could say quote.
Yeah, quote from the quote, book from the book.
Then,
yeah.
Payload, whatever that is.
Yeah, the $.payload .quote whatever. Yeah, but okay.
Dollar, whatever. So I think this will do the same thing that we wanted to do.
But anyway, there is a in the flow on the left, in the flow tab. Add separated branches parallel. So to run stuff in parallel.
Can I try something very quickly, just because?
Yeah. Sure.
So what I want to do is result selector is for the input or for the out. Transform result with result selector. Okay. So what we want to do is result selector. This, pretty much. This is what I wanted to do. Quote takes $. And now in the code, we don't need to
remove the wrapping,
which doesn't make too much sense from the perspective of this Lambda to do.
Yeah, exactly.
To be concerned about the structure of the state. Now, is this the right syntax? Result selector. Let's try here. If we do foo and then $, what do we get in the... is there an easy way to just see the definition?
There is a definition toggle up right.
Oh, nice. Okay, fetch quote, next type.
Result selector.
Result selector foo $. Okay, we want to try if this is doing exactly the same.
Yeah, that's right.
Because if this is working, then we can do the other. Actually, I will try to make it work fully. What do you think?
Okay.
And then, if we still have time, try to add an extra state. Okay. Because adding an extra state means also adding the parallel step, which I think adds a bit more complexity.
If you don't add the parallel step, what is... well, the start is not fetch quote anymore. The start should be the
we
parallel
can do it in
one.
sequence, but not in parallel.
It makes no sense to do them in sequence.
So let's deploy this.
Yeah, let's deploy this, test what is passing by, and then populate the Lambda, the empty Lambda.
Come on. Cool. Let's do another execution. Leave, don't save any edit.
Yeah.
Didn't fail, which is good.
Okay.
So the output is quote $. Okay, that's not correct.
Okay, it's not exactly what we want.
And here the input is just going to be $.
Well, yeah.
So what did we do wrong?
So what do we have to write in the YAML instead of a quote? Instead of the $?
Let's see, because there was an example here. If we do this again, input, output here.
Try to remove everything. It's not giving you a...
Oh, I think it's because we didn't have a dot here.
Before or after?
Good point. Before.
Okay, let's
At least I'm trying to see here. To reference a node in this state, the key must end with $. Okay, let's try this really quickly.
Worst case is not working.
I'm trying to see if there is another. Why this one works? Maybe because
because it's a double quote. Remove the double quotes. Yeah,
that's interesting. From the YAML perspective, shouldn't make any difference.
Should be the same. Yeah.
But let's see if this works.
Unless there is not a templating step before the YAML. That is a template or is a YAML file, or is the template of a YAML file?
There is some stuff that happens before YAML, because for instance, when we use SSM references, there is a specific syntax which is not YAML.
Yeah, so there is a preprocessor. So probably it's the preprocessor. But if you add the double quote, the preprocessor say, okay, he wants literally a $.
Because it also works with JSON, so I don't know when it's processed, if before or after JSON versus YAML parsing.
Well, let's see what is happening. It failed or it executed?
Running now. Wait, did you already run?
It was fast.
Output.
Oh, this is the previous one.
18:52. What time is it? What's 52. Now? I'm gonna do another one just in case.
Yeah, just to be sure, because it was really fast. No.
Nope.
Okay.
So what is the syntax? It's $.
Try.
Let's try this.
Seems a little bit odd, but it could be.
Or I think it's $. But I'm not sure.
Oh, but well, we tried that one, and we will also say a yes, just to go on. We can even try $. Try everything.
Okay, let's do a new execution. I think this might actually fail. Let's see what happens.
If he's not happy of your syntax.
It's not failing.
No, but he passed. Okay, we need to read some documentation.
Yep, I was checking here some examples. So we are trying the result selector. Let's see if there is an example here. There must be some example here. Use result selector field to manipulate states result before result path is applied.
Probably we need to use result path.
What is result path then?
The name sounds...
Isn't the one we were using before?
No, we were not using result path.
Okay, is there a description for what result path does? With result path field, you can add to the output of the result selector field to the original input. I don't understand what this means.
I think I understood. Try to do result path $.quote. Just that one. Remove the...
Oh, Copilot is reading.
Yeah, but quote with the capital Q. Otherwise it will be... Oh, well, now, who cares? Yeah, Okay, they should document this better.
Yeah, this is honestly the only annoying thing with step functions, that I always struggle to remember all these parameters and how to configure them.
Result selection is taking the object that you return and is only taking pieces of it. And result path is putting everything that comes out inside a key.
Yeah.
If I got it correctly.
Which is what we want, basically.
Yeah, but we want to take everything. If you want to remove the ID, you need to use the result selector. If you want to remove the ID, for example. But if you want to keep everything, fine.
By the way, you might be wondering why it is so complicated. And the reason is that you could do pretty advanced integration between different AWS services without having to write any code. For instance, you could create requests to DynamoDB directly, for instance. But of course, you need to make sure that the payload you send to the DynamoDB step is proper JSON, correct DynamoDB JSON. So that's why probably there is a lot of flexibility there, because theoretically you could avoid to write lambdas just for gluing SDK calls together.
You can do some small data handling through these rules.
Finally. And it's also keeping the input. Look at that.
We told him to keep the input, or is keeping the input on its own?
Because we are not overriding the full state anymore. We are just saying
we are not overriding output. Okay, yeah.
Which is probably good, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we are creating 3 states and pushing them down to create issue. So, in the end. So the input of a create issue, what is?
I think it's everything. Let's see.
Inside a payload key.
Inside a payload key, yeah.
Okay, it's important to remember that.
Also,
here is a payload key. But it's nice that you can debug this kind of stuff from here.
I don't know if I like this payload key, to be honest, but
can you get rid of it?
I guess the question is it just $?
No, you have to get rid of it in line 26 if you have to.
Year and year.
But is $, or you just don't put the parameters at all?
Oh yeah, let's try what happens if we do that. Which I'm just gonna comment for now.
Yeah. Save, deploy, run, free of all.
Come on.
I'm asking myself if there is people using SAM in production, only SAM.
Well, I do use it.
So, yeah, there are people.
At least there is one.
At least one.
Okay, this was fast, but comment is straight away, and the input here is straight away.
Okay.
Honestly,
so
I like it more, less code.
Parameters only needs to wrap what the state inside something. If you want just to go with the plain state, you don't even put parameters.
Okay, cool. So let's now write the code.
Yeah.
So basically what we need to do is to install a package. So here
we have to go in the folder and do an npm install.
Tech quote of the week. So we need to go to the folder and do cd functions fetch quote npm install save this guy. Cool. 0 vulnerabilities. It's just a JSON file. And now what we can do is just to copy from here the part where we imported tech quote of the week. I think there is going to be a little bit more to it, and you will see it in a second, but let's do it step by step. Now let's see where we use this guy.
Is it asynchronous?
Here, the problem is this week number. So we'll see in a second how to create the week number as well.
You have
and here we can basically do quote.
The week number comes from the current time.
The week number is something that we could do it in another step. Okay, I'm going to give you a bit more context because this seems a little bit weird. So one of the requirements that I had in mind when I did this first version was like, there is a lot of stuff that is generated from lists, and I could just pick a random one, right? But then what's preventing from one issue to the next one that I get the same book or the same quote? Or maybe if it's not from one to the next one, from one to two following ones. So I wanted something that was a little bit more predictable and make sure that it would spread around the content as evenly as possible. So what I did, I just said, okay, what can be a good way of doing that? Simple enough so that I don't need to store anything. And basically, because I was generating a newsletter every week, I was just taking the week number. So 1 to 52, I believe. How many weeks there are? And 52. Then just doing a modulo on that database. I don't know if I was also multiplying by the year or something like that to give it more variability, but basically...
Always give out the same quote for the same week every year.
Exactly. That's actually the way that it used to work. I mean, it's still working like that, which is not amazing. I actually have an idea for a new feature that we could build. So there could be a first initial Lambda. Oh, by the way, the way why I was doing it this way is because I didn't want to store the issue number anywhere.
Yeah.
But I am realizing that I am storing the issue number somewhere in this page.
You have a state in S3, you said.
No, here. The problem is that if you generate multiple tests, like for instance, now we are running it multiple times, there isn't really a reliable number until you actually send the email.
Yeah.
So what we could do is we could have a first step that scrapes this page and it takes the first number here. It's a bit hacky, but it kind of prevents us from having a stable storage that somehow needs to be correlated with MailChimp when MailChimp... But
you have a stable storage. This one is
exactly.
It's not
a database, but we can use this information here. But until we do that, I think the easiest thing to do is to just stick with the week number. But maybe next time what we can do is to create a new state that goes here, fetches this number, +1, and that's going to be the value.
State. A new Lambda that goes here, fetches the number, and passes the number. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, with the step function, you can go as granular as you want. You can abuse this granularity because
the reason why I want to do it this way is because this will be needed in two different parts. One is to fetch the quotes, and one is to fetch the book.
So we can do that in a single step.
Yeah.
Now, I was thinking that just for people to tell people, if you start to split every single line of code in a Lambda, then AWS is charging you.
It's charging you because
every Lambda execution,
there is a small charge.
100 milliseconds, I think, that is billed, even if the Lambda takes 0.
Yes, and there is a number of executions as well, which is in the order of thousands of executions before you get charged a few cents. So in this use case, it doesn't really matter because we run it once a week. So if we run one Lambda or if we run 5 Lambdas, I don't think it's going to have any practical effect, but it's something good to keep in mind. Also, you have limits in terms of how many Lambdas you can have running in an account. So if you take this approach for everything, very quickly we'll be running out of concurrent Lambdas.
Week number, we take it from the system time? Or...
So let's copy here how we did it, because we already did it here. We can just copy paste that code. So I was using this now thing, which is moment tz. So we'll need to make sure we import the same number. Sorry, I'm just going to copy all of this and then we'll do it here. Delete all of this and this. Now we need moment as well. And moment is coming from this guy. And we will need to install it as well.
Do we have to change the syntax or? No, okay, it's fine. Is
So that's literally everything we need. But we need to import moment as well. And I want to make sure I import exactly the same version. So I'm just going to do this. npm install, save this guy. Cool. And at this point, this should work, and it should give us a different quote if we deploy and test this.
where is the node modules for fetch quote?
Oh yeah, good question. Why is not here? And it's here.
You were in the right folder, right?
Oh, I think because I'm using, okay, this is going to be a problem.
Well, it was. No,
I am using workspaces, npm workspaces, which is, yeah, it's trying to do smart optimizations across all the projects, but I don't know if Sam is going to like that.
Oh, let's try.
I think Sam wants a node modules there, but let's try and let's see if it fails to import.
You can always move the folder.
Yeah. I don't know if there is a better way. Actually, this could be an interesting problem to try to solve. Maybe if we use another package manager like PNPM or Yarn, we can do smarter things. But for today, let's just try to don't break things and do a little step forward.
Break all the things.
Okay. On. Cool. Let's see what happens if we run this. Is it gonna explode?
Probably will say unfound the import or something like that.
It did explode. What's the cause? Cannot find package moment time zone. So let's see. Some support npm workspaces. Let's see if there is a solution there.
Feature request, cool.
It was closed.
So it should be. Or they just bounced it like usual.
What? Looks like a change in Lambda builders that broke this. I don't think this has anything to do with npm workspaces. Okay, so this is just the wrong report. Oh, because here they're using esbuild, which will bundle the code. So in that case, it doesn't really matter where you keep the dependencies.
Yeah, because it's compiling. Compiling. I mean,
that could be a solution for now. We can try that. Let's try that.
Yeah, but if you want to look at the code in the Lambda, then you can't.
Yeah, that's the side effect. But for now, let's try to make it work this way, and then we'll see if there is another approach. So, okay.
There is an option when you do the deploy to do that, or in the template?
I think it's here. Metadata, build, esbuild, build property, minify. Oh, minify false. Okay, that's good.
You have to do this for every Lambda?
Yeah, which is a bit annoying.
But well, we do that only for the quote for now. The other one is fine.
The other one is fine.
It has these node modules there.
just incidentally, because I think when we did the copy paste, we copied everything. But if we install new modules,
it's not going to work. But now it's working. So let's experiment with fetch quote. Don't break the monolithic one, because the monolithic one, if you uncomment the code, is working.
That's true.
So there is at the same level as
metadata.
You have to indent. Is happy?
Or it's the same level as properties. Yeah. And now this JS, MJS.
The entry point you have to change for sure.
I don't think we need this. I'm not sure. Okay, the entry point is going to be. Also, we are not using TypeScript, so it's going to be just handler. JS.
Easy finding the folder. Well, let's see.
Let's do some build. Let's see what it does.
It's not doing the build when you deploy.
So it's still not doing that. So this is not really helping.
Yeah, but it's finding handler.js at least, because it's reading it and failing.
Okay, let's do another solution then. For now, it's probably easier. Here we don't do workspaces anymore, and we just go inside cd functions.
Fetch quote. And you redo the 2 npm install.
And at this point, we have a node modules here.
Okay.
So now this is gonna work. Now the only annoying thing is that you need to do npm install everywhere in any
folder for any Lambda, instead of doing that in the root for everything.
Which is probably something we will do in a CI or something like that.
But if we move to everything to Rust, then we have to.
No, what are you doing? Don't build.
Do the Rust way.
Exactly.
Some deploy. No, we're not deploying anymore. Even there, what we do, we'll see how you do multiple lambdas in Rust. With Sam, is Sam supporting Rust?
It supports Rust, and it also supports cargo Lambda, which should make it a little bit easier to scaffold the Lambda code for Rust. And also to run the Lambda locally.
To test it. So you can run all the step function locally?
Not all the step function, but individual functions for sure. Okay, so this is running. Let's see if finally we have something working.
Yeah. Now we find out if it's running.
Well, it's deployed. Let's see if it's running.
Nope.
What happened? Failed. Different failure. Error there.
No, it's not finding tech quote of the week.
Okay, but it's a different error though.
Yeah, but it found the. Go in the package JSON.
Okay, I maybe messed up something there. It doesn't contain.
No, there is not your library. There's only moment time zone.
Was it added here?
Was it added somewhere?
Wow, that's interesting.
But it's gone.
Okay, so let's copy it from here again. Tech quote of the week. I don't know why it disappeared. That's really weird.
Functions. You're in the right folder. Okay.
Now let's double check here. Package JSON. Now it's there. There is a package lock. Node modules. There is this folder. Cool. Let's go one more time.
Sorry. You need to go in the right folder.
Cool. So this is deployed. Fingers crossed.
That this time runs.
This looks like when you edit your GitHub actions that you are editing.
Yeah, then you
failing,
go back and
editing,
forth
failing.
trying. Yeah.
Yeah. So the output this time is ID 26 because this is probably week 26. So.
Yeah, it's week 26.
Okay, so this is working. So now if we want to close the episode in a nice way, we can restore the code here and see if it creates a nice newsletter. So if everything works as expected.
We have also to use the payload quote that comes
Exactly.
in as an input. And
so what we need to do here is restore everything. We can get rid of
line 21, you can get rid of it. Line 20 is not needed because the step function are debugging for you.
Sorry, line
2021, both are not needed.
I want to remove everything, but I also want to remove
9
quote of the week, which is 9. Yeah,
9.
Now if
I was not saying no, I was saying line number 9.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so here what we do is
where is the quote coming from?
Here quote is basically going to be event.quote, right?
Let's
we
see.
can check here. In here in the input we have quote. That's it.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. You have to remove it from node modules also. Well,
we will remove it from node modules, and also here we don't need to return the callback anymore because I also removed that callback from the top
because it's the future.
Because this is, was the future a few years ago. Now it's not the future anymore. Okay, so now we can remove this guy. So we can go here, cd functions, create issue, npm rm, this guy. Okay, and now if we do some deploy, let's see what happens. It might take a little bit longer this time.
Yeah, because it has to re-upload the main chunk in Lambda.
That's cool. So created, updated stack.
So now if you run it, it will really create a draft newsletter in your mail.
It should at least.
MailChimp?
Yes, MailChimp.
So it will take more now this time. So more, not to do the fetch quote. But
this was too fast. Wait, did it really deploy the new version? Could not
authentic.
What? Where is this coming from? Let's check the logs.
Yeah. So this is also a. How do you debug a Lambda?
So loaded book of the week.
Loaded quote of the week.
Quote of the week, sorry, that's the...
That is our quote and past
26th, okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Then
we also got the book. What is the step after getting the book?
Code 32 could not authenticate.
What is the step after the book in
the code? Yeah, let's check. Oh, Twitter.
So they finally removed your API access.
Oh, that's a problem.
Oh.
Okay. I think we might be running out of time for today, but
We arrived at least here. So now we're blocked, but not because of the code, because of a more strictly problem.
yes. Cool. So I'll need to figure out how to address this. I think I have some new API keys for the for the full stack. So a fun story with Twitter. My account, for which I'm also paying Twitter, I cannot get API keys. They are not responding to support or anything, because I don't know if there are still people in support. Maybe Elon fired everyone.
Why do you pay Twitter? Sorry for the question.
I was just testing if it was easier to
to
get access again to APIs.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know if it's worth it, so probably I'm not even going to renew it next month. But then for Full Stack Bulletin, which is another account, I just did the request to get API access, which I never did before because I never used that as an API account. And I immediately got access.
Perfect.
So I don't know what's going on.
We leave to you to figure out your Twitter credentials, okay?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Let's wrap it up.
Yes.
Okay, you can find the recording on YouTube. The link is on Twitch in the About section. If you're watching this on YouTube, we do live streaming on Twitch every Monday, 6 p.m. Dublin time. Make sure to check the Twitch link in the YouTube description and give us a follow so that you can be notified. Feel free to leave us comment, open pull request. Everything is well accepted. We are trying to learn this time step functions, Node, but we will arrive to Rust when all the scaffolding is done. Don't expect our solution to be the cleanest one in Rust, but in Node, yes, they are quite good. And if you know
I don't
how
know.
to do stuff,
I would disagree with that because this is code that is like 7 years old, and you
but you learn from your mistakes. Don't worry.
We can make it better, but right now it's a bit crap.
Yeah, if you know better ways of doing stuff, let us know. Thank you for all the people in chat. There was somebody. Are we raiding somebody?
Yes, we are. So we are going to be raiding Luke, which is doing, I think, coding challenges or something like that. But he always does interesting stuff. So I guess we'll see you next time. Thank you very much.
Bye.